Welcome to the Across the Bar podcast, where we talk about why today's headlines are important for your success at work. My name is Peter Raybar. I'm your first call on legal issues.
I'm Laura Brownstein. I should be your first call on comms and content issues. Peter, you're someplace that seems very beautiful. Where is this?
I'm in Sardinia. I think this is our second international episode.
Wow. We are
nice here.
quite the cosmopolitan show.
Yeah, how are things in New York?
So are you getting stopped in the streets in Sardinia? Are people like, are you the host of the Across the Bar podcast?
I mean, that's basically what's happening, but not on the streets, on the seas. You know, people are pulling over their yachts and asking me if I'm the co-host of the Across the Bar podcast and where you are.
That's great image.
Yeah.
All right, since you're on vacation, we're gonna go like hard and fast today. Hard-hitting topics. We're going to talk about the impact of AI on HR and people teams. We're going to talk about whether professors are as safe as they used to be in their jobs. We're going to talk about whether college is even necessary on the heels of LinkedIn's new list of top colleges for career success, and helicopter parents. And I think it's not helicopter parents, it's snowplow parents at work. When parents get involved with their kids' jobs.
And specifically Gen Z kids.
Yes. It happened a little bit with millennials, but it's definitely more with Gen Z. Should we start with that one because it's kind of fun?
Yeah, totally. Okay. And I agree with you. It did happen with millennials. I had to deal with it back in my corporate days. It was kind of fun.
Yeah. So there is a growing trend that when Gen Zs have troubles at work, their parents get involved. Sometimes just helping them behind the scenes, but sometimes intervening with their manager. Can you imagine?
Not a good idea.
There is unless your child is hospitalized, do not reach out on their behalf to work. Like, if they are in a coma, you can reach out and tell their office that they're in a coma. Otherwise, nothing.
So that's your standard comatose.
Coma or no coma. Or like if they break both hands, I don't know. But like if you need to give like a medical or wellness update, but not wellness update as in my child needs a mental health break because they worked an extra hour yesterday.
Right. I this was a pretty interesting article. As I said, I've dealt with it a little bit. It was in the Wall Street Journal this week. It talks about how Gen Z parents in particular are getting more involved in every aspect of the job cycle, from posting on LinkedIn to help their kids network and get them jobs, to literally showing up at job interviews, to contesting performance evaluations.
Contesting firings. There was the top story was a guy saying I had to fire this guy twice, once to him and once to his mother. Right.
And
you don't want your mommy calling your boss and protesting your firing. I'm going to admit, when I got fired from the Army-Navy store in 8th grade and I was really upset, my dad called the owner of the store. And he was like, we don't have enough business after the holidays. And my dad was like, okay. And that was the end. He was like, Laura, this happens. If it's seasonal, move on. And I did. But I was, let's review, 14. And it still was wrong that my dad called on my behalf when I was 14. It is different at 24.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I remember the first time I had to deal with it. A newspaper editor called me and said, hey, I'm about to interview someone for a new reporter position, and their parents showed up for the interview and want to talk to me. Should I talk to them? And I said, no. And
they called you. This was at Hearst, and they called you as the lawyer to be like...
I'm not going to say where it was. I'm just going to say it was a newspaper editor who called me and said, hey, this candidate's parents showed up, do I need to talk to them? And I said, no, you don't need to talk to them.
Absolutely not.
And look, I even have clients who try and get their parents on the phone with me. Obviously, very different situation. I don't allow it either. But
really?
Look, this is bad.
Why don't you allow that?
Well, to protect their attorney-client privilege.
Do you allow spouses?
Generally not. So, but there's a separate spousal privilege that attaches, to discussions between spouses. So if they want to do that, that's
how does that work? What is that?
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the parents first, and then we can talk about the spousal privilege.
Sorry, I was interested. You said something interesting, Peter. I wanted to follow it.
For once, I said something interesting. piqued your
I wanted
interest.
to act on it.
Yeah. Um, Look, this is bad for whether you're an applicant or whether you're a parent. This is bad, or
This is bad
someone
for
in a
America.
job. Don't,
Like,
yeah, and bad for
what?
America. Exactly.
This is bad for the country. Do your job. Don't go cry to your parents.
Right. Part of having a job is growing up, showing responsibility, showing independence. Having your parents be involved in it is not a good idea. If you have a problem, figure it out yourself. If you're a parent and a kid asks you for,
Which is not to say you can't. Listen, I have a lot of friends that ask their parents for advice on everything. What a wonderful privilege to have the chance to do that. But you need to make your own decisions when it comes to your career and workplace.
yeah, look, there's nothing wrong with asking your parents for general career advice or even advice on certain situations, but you shouldn't be asking them to interact with your bosses or interact with your colleagues
Or
or
clients.
or show up uh, at work related interviews or whatnot, or contest your termination. I mean, that's ridiculous. It shows that you have no independence, and it shows that you have no responsibility.
I would not hire
And
that person.
yeah,
Ever.
that's an immediate no. And in
Yes.
fact, I talk to parents all that. And by the way, I have my own kids, and they're one of whom is working in the workforce, one is in an internship, and they ask me for advice all the time. And sometimes I give it, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I just tell them figure it out. Like that's the way it is. And if you're a parent, you should want your kid to figure it
Figure it
out,
out.
and
Yeah.
that's how you
And
learn.
see that they can do
That's-
it. Yes.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Exactly.
Totally.
So stay out of
Well,
it, helicopter parents.
stay out of it, parents. And this leads us to the much beleaguered HR department. The HR or people department usually has the worst jobs at the company. They're the ones who have to deal with layoffs or any issues. But they're also there to support the kind of administrative functioning of an office, or it used to be. Now, because of AI, there are many, many more automated bots and ways that work gets done in an office that don't need people. And so there is much less need for the people team in an office that is automating a lot of its internal practices. And that seems like something that's going to go wrong fast, does it not?
For sure. I mean, so we're talking about an article in Bloomberg, and
Yeah.
Something I've also heard and seen with clients is that the HR departments are taking a hit in recent rounds of layoffs. So when I say recent, within the last 2 years, and in many cases, some of their functions are reportedly being replaced by AI. So I'll give you my take on it, which is I believe that HR is a very important function for a
Yes.
company to have humans perform, because they are your most frequent point of interaction with employees, and it's important to have people with judgment and experience having those interactions. Now, that being said,
Yeah.
I think the numbers are a little deceiving, because they said there's an 18% reduction in employment services jobs since 2022. That also includes admin jobs that are related to HR. And as we've talked about on this podcast, there's been a lot of reduction of HR departments due to DEI related cuts. And so those are HR jobs that were very clearly cut.
Yeah.
And then I will say there were some jobs that were never filled by humans that AI is now doing. So like, to the extent you have a question about
Like what?
your benefits or a question about your
Yeah.
handbook, those were always really frustrating questions because you'd have a hard time getting someone to answer them for you. Now there are bots that are very aware
Peter, are
of
you being
policies and
pro
benefits.
AI in this situation?
I actually think this is one of the best uses of AI, is to fulfill services for employees that are really important to them that weren't being fulfilled.
It never
previously.
had someone covering them. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So look, I'm not saying that there haven't been jobs replaced by AI. Obviously, there are AI tools that help in hiring and screening resumes, and in some cases even conducting job interviews. Again, I think if you're using AI to conduct a job interview, that's a big mistake. There's a lot of stories about
Huge.
people faking these tools out, these tools doing interviews and then
there's no way to know if it's a real
different
person
people showing
you're
up.
interviewing.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it could be two AI bots interviewing each other.
Right. And by the way, you could have a really qualified candidate show up for an interview and then AI shows up to interview them. They get totally turned off by it and move on to somewhere else.
Gross.
So
Yeah.
I think it's a huge risk. I'm a big believer in humans, as you know. So I think if you're going to experiment and replace HR with AI, you're doing it at your peril, basically.
Yes.
At least now.
And don't forget, like, the way individuals engage with the company they work for changes more than we realize all the time. Because now, you're more likely to get an email than to be maybe in a in-person meeting with a team or with an HR person or doing like a town hall. And you want there to be a face that they're associating the company with. And often that is the HR person, the person that hired them, the person that they can go to ask questions.
Right. And
you get rid of that. I think you get rid of a lot of the loyalty and personal connection that people have to the place they work for.
Completely agree. And I can tell you from experience that a really experienced and knowledgeable HR person can save your ass in tough situations. They can make a call or, comfort an employee in a way that really de-escalates a situation that could become a huge problem, or flag a situation for immediate, addressing, that maybe a machine wouldn't do. So I think it's a really dangerous area to replace humans with AI. I would be very careful about it.
Agree to agree.
But
Okay.
I think it's a great area to supplement humans, frankly.
Yes. Well said.
Yes.
Okay. We had two articles about professors and keeping or losing their jobs. There was one article where a professor with tenure at one of the smaller colleges that's facing financial issues got laid off. And the college is saying, well, tenure doesn't protect you from a layoff. Also, a professor at West Point pushed back against the rule that came under the Trump administration that civilian professors at West Point had to get permission before speaking personally in the classroom or anywhere else in public. And a professor pushed back at that and seems to have won because West Point is not pushing back against the pushback.
Right.
Is that ever legal for West Point to have that? Obviously we've talked a lot about your office can tell you what you can and can't say in public as a representative of the company, but can they say you can't say anything personal without permission or you're subject to dismissal?
Well, the key here on the West Point case is that West Point is a public institution. It's technically a government institution. It's not a private institution. So
right.
We've talked frequently here that private employers can make rules governing speech and that there's no such thing as the First Amendment in the private workplace. And so an employer can make rules, and very often they do.
But it's sticky with West Point is that it was public.
Right. But West Point is a government-funded institution and a government entity. So they do have the First Amendment to contend with. And so this rule that said, basically you can't say anything that disagrees with Defense Department policy, and also you can't make any, appearances or public appearances or speeches or anything without our prior approval, which has a chilling effect on speech. Those could be violations of the First Amendment. But of course, the government didn't even challenge it because they definitely would have lost. It definitely would have caused a huge problem. And so therefore the rule was suspended. It's not being enforced. And this, brave law professor challenged it. And, he reported that he's now been isolated by his colleagues and fears for his job. And, that feeds into our second story about a tenured professor at the New School losing his job in the economics department, Sanjay Reddy, as part of a restructuring that eliminated 18 jobs. And this fear that is now spread amongst professors that tenure is meaningless. And I would say both cases illustrate exactly what the government was trying to do, which is they were tired of educational institutions They considered them too woke. They considered them as fueling the opposition to their policies, and they wanted to do everything possible to break them down. So, in the first case, West Point, they passed rules. They probably were expecting that no one would be brave enough to challenge them. And, then someone did. And, all of a sudden, Tim Bakken, by the way, we should say his name because he's a very brave person. And that policy went away. And then in the second case, plenty of schools around the country, probably every single school has lost significant amounts of government funding, whether it's for research or other programs. And these colleges have huge holes in their budgets, and they're going to need to make cuts.
And they have fewer international students paying full free.
That's right. And that's another thing is like they don't have graduate students. They don't have students on visas. The number, the decline in enrollment is staggering, which means the decline in revenue is staggering.
It went down 9% in 1 year. International students going to American universities. That's a lot in 1 year.
Right. And that's just not sustainable for these schools, and they need to make difficult decisions.
But I think to your point, though, the Trump administration, MAGA world, wanted universities and professors to be less sacred spaces, less sacred cows. They wanted this to feel like just any other job, not something special. And that's what they're doing. They are eroding the safety of those jobs.
Yeah. I'll say something. I did not check it before the podcast today, but I think I did read it at one point so I could be wrong. And anyone,
seldom are.
If anyone finds that I'm wrong, please tell me. But I do believe one of the points in Project 2025 was to break the tenure system. And this is one way to do it. And so it turns out that tenure, it's not an employment contract. It's actually a norm, a principle. And basically, in the academic union, the principle is that once you get tenure, you have lifetime employment unless you're fired for cause or there is a, extraordinary financial exigency. And so here the new school is claiming that there is an extraordinary financial exigency. And this professor is saying, hey, I'm the only one in the econ department you're laying off. And you're not shutting down the econ department. So there's something fishy here. And I said some things against the administration, and maybe that's, why I'm being fired. But look, this is we're going to see some.
And the new school was a hotbed of campus protests that was hot a year ago. Like, it's also just a messy space at the moment.
The new school is an institution that you and I know well. We have a very close geographical proximity to it. Every time I've walked by that place in the last couple of years, there's been some sort of protest about
some sort of something going on. So tensions are high.
And so of course they're in New York. It's a natural target, and they're going to have to make some tough decisions. And frankly, a lot of schools are. And schools are doing everything they can.
And how much of this is also, I don't know, it's the ongoing clash right now in some ways between generations. Like, it's so hot at the new school because the students as artists are very left-leaning for the most part, and there's just clashes.
Well, it's a problem at a lot of schools, and schools have had to enact policies to really clamp down on protests. And so, I'll give you an example. When the Iran war started, a lot of my friends asked me if I was upset that students weren't protesting against the Iran war like they were against Gaza. And I said, no, I'm not, actually. And they said, why not? And they were very surprised. And I said, because this administration has told schools, if you have protests, we're going to cut funding. And then they did it, and the schools passed these policies and basically did everything they can to beg their students not to protest. And now this is what we have, an environment where at a lot of schools, students don't protest anything. Anything.
It's a mess.
I don't like that, frankly.
I don't like it either.
Yeah.
I didn't like how out of control, to my view, some of the protests got when students felt unsafe. But also, kids should be able to protest.
That's right. And the smart schools took steps to deal with students who broke rules and endangered others. Vanderbilt is often cited as one of those schools.
Yeah, handled it well.
Handled it well, and Columbia is an example of one that didn't. But not every school is at Columbia, and not every school is at Vanderbilt. There's a lot of in between. And we should want our kids to disagree with policies and express their views. We shouldn't want them to just
well, we want our kids to find their voice when they're in university. Like, we want them to protest something stupid. Like, just figure out what matters to you and act on it.
Right. And professors should do that within the rules too. I totally believe that professors have a right to express disagreement, and they should be, they shouldn't do it in a way that's threatening to students.
Yes.
And so
yes, seems basic.
And tenured professors feel like no one could tell them what to do, and so here we are.
Can't tell me nothing.
Right. Yeah. So here we are.
So that brings us.
But let me say one other thing. I mean, transferring this to a corporate perspective and environment, this is why a lot of companies don't speak up against the government, because they don't want to be targeted by the government. And that's why,
this is a very lay low and keep your head down kind of.
They don't want to lose government contracts and then have to lay off employees and blah, blah, blah. And that's not good. No one should want that. But,
no one.
Yeah.
Agree.
Yeah.
Okay, now that brings us to our last big topic about LinkedIn just put out a new list of top colleges for success. And Princeton is number 1. Peter's alma mater, Duke, is number 2. My alma mater, Cornell, is number 8. But it's interesting, this is based on different metrics than other top college lists. It's what will be best for you career-wise. And what is interesting about that, I think, is in light of the debate of whether or not college is going to be essential to career success in the future, and whether there are different things that matter now than used to. Other than being very proud of Duke, what are your feelings on this, Peter?
Well, also we have to note that the third member of our team, Sadie's college, is number 17 on the list, Wake Forest.
Oh, right.
Exceptional.
Covering the waterfront.
Is a school that's also top 10 in job placement generally. But these rankings different from the U.S. News and World Report rankings because they're just focused on job placement, strength of alumni networks, C-suite presence, entrepreneurship, and internships. And, certainly from my experience, I could tell you that, the Duke network is very strong. It's very strong in New York, D.C., West Coast.
Same with
Texas.
Cornell.
Cornell. I mean, I have so many clients who went to Cornell who tell me all the time. And former colleagues. I started at a law firm that was basically all Cornell people. They would take me to their.
You learned Cornell. A lot there. That's good. That's why that really has done well by you. Learning from those.
I went to that. They have annual dinners where they sing the Cornell song with each other. It's really awkward if you didn't go there and you're just filling a table. But anyway. When I talk to young people about how to pick colleges, this is something I always focus on. You should go somewhere where you feel comfortable, but you should certainly look at career statistics and job placement. That's really important. And there's nothing novel about that advice, but that is my focus.
And do some research on where the people who are leaders in the industry you're interested in went to college. That is really easy to do on LinkedIn. If you know you want to be a sports agent, do some research on where people at CAA or WME went to college. See what programs they went to, because different schools do specialize in different things. And if you want a career that is based in DC, you want a school that feeds into DC or is in DC. Cornell is a much better place to go for a career in New York than a career in LA, to be honest. It's a very East Coast heavy school network.
Right. I mean, you should know about, what the popular schools are for the profession you like, if there's a particular company, as you said, you should research that. That's really important. I mean, I do not like the trend of pushing kids to decide what they want to do before they even go to college.
I agree.
And I'm not advocating for that. I'm just saying pick a school that puts you in a good position to make decisions down the line.
Yeah.
You don't have to make the decision at that point.
I I
But
do
I
wonder
also,
if the model is going to change. Like, will it be 4 years in the future? I don't know. Maybe 2 years is going to be deemed enough time to kind of go expand your mind and socialize with people your own age, as there are less hard skills that need to be learned. I think it's going to shift in our lifetime.
I think it's an important question. I mean, we were talking, in our prep session about whether college is even going to be important. I think
Yeah,
I think it will be. I think it's important. People attach a lot of importance to it. Corporate leaders do, and it's going to take a while for it to not be important. But questions about length, I mean, those are legitimate questions. We ask those about law school because the third year of law school is essentially useless. And with the costs increasing the way they
it's
are,
so
those are
expensive.
real
Yeah.
questions. Yeah, those are real questions. And the budget's shrinking, and the changes that this administration has made will have decades worth of
Lasting
impact.
generational
Yeah.
impact. Yep.
So these will become
100%.
real questions for sure. And schools will also look to the top schools will all look to increase enrollments. And so they'll have to, find ways to do that. They were reluctant to do that in the past, but
Yeah.
they
They're going to
might
have
choose,
to probably.
yeah,
Yeah.
or open new
All right.
campuses or whatever.
All right. Heroes and zeros. Who's your zero this week, Peter?
Well, my zero is I'll make it quick. There was a tweet from Sam Altman this week that said a cool use of ChatGPT is inserting, like
I saw
uploading
that.
your family calendars and letting it create a podcast that talks about your kids' interests.
Don't
And
do that.
yeah, bad idea.
Oh my
Please.
God. Bad idea, people. Like,
Yeah.
what a bad idea.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
like, and a lot of commenters said it. I'll just say it, like, maybe you should just talk to your kids and figure that out and just have a conversation with them. Like,
Yeah.
it's pretty basic. It's pretty
Don't
basic.
use AI. Yes. That is not what you want uploading into AI
Yeah. So
at all.
who's your zero?
My zero is going to be that it looks like Todd Blanche is going to get confirmed.
Oh, oof.
Back
Yes.
up. There's nothing more to like. Everyone, listen. It's a conflict of interest. He basically, during his hearing, when he was asked, "Are you friends with the president?" He said, "I'm the president's lawyer." I mean, I was. I mean,
Yeah.
ew. He came up with the slush fund. This is bad news.
Yeah.
My hero.
Wait, before you go to your hero,
Yeah.
can I just say my prediction is the promise he made on the immunity piece of the slush fund, he will not live up to that. And that he
Agreed.
will find
100%.
a way to legalize and make permanent the immunity that he promised to the
Meaning that
president.
no one in the Trump family can ever be prosecuted for anything by the IRS. That's
Right,
insane.
right.
Get out of jail free card for the whole Trump family. So you will understand the nuances of this better than I will, but I think yesterday the 20th state came back with their court saying, no, we do not have to give the Justice Department our voter files. And the Trump administration sued all the states that weren't giving it up and all the states that went Democrat. And so far, 20 cases have been tried, and the states have prevailed in 20 of them because the states should not turn over voter rolls to the federal government. Did I get that all right?
Yes, yes.
And so go justice system
yeah,
in that
and,
way that the courts are squashing them.
And everybody should be resisting efforts to, change the voting system because, the ID law that, requires proof
Brave
of
Act is bad
citizenship,
news.
it's just going to purge people from voter rolls, legitimate people from voter rolls, just because they didn't get a passport or something like that. I mean, it's
Yes.
it's a false issue.
Women whose
We need
names
to-
are changed. The less women who vote, the happier the Republicans are.
100%. 100%. My
And
hero.
what's your hero?
Yeah, my hero is the TV show The Agency.
Oh.
How about that?
Haven't
Bet-
seen that.
Bet you weren't expecting that. The
I
Agency
wasn't.
season 2 on Paramount Plus.
Okay.
Excellent show, starring Richard Gere, Jeffrey Wright, Michael Fassbender. Incredible
Oh.
cast. Incredible cast.
Oh, I have to. I'm going to watch that. Good tip.
Yeah. If you like spy
I enjoyed
shows.
5-Star Weekend very much in the last week, but I'm not recommending it to you personally, Peter, because I don't know that Jennifer Garner and her 4 best friends having a weekend on Nantucket is maybe your ideal viewing, but it was delightful.
Yes. Others in my family are watching that show.
Okay.
So I am aware of it.
Delightful.
The Agency.
The Agency. I will watch it. Peter, this was great. Go back on your
Yes.
vacation now. Sadie,
right.
thank you as always.
And thank you everyone for listening and listening to and watching the Across the Bar podcast. And we'll
Tell
see
your
you
friends.
next week. Tell your friends, and we'll both be back in the United States next week. Ciao.
Sounds good.